The notion of Bodhisattva is very profound and interesting. The core of that idea of Bodhisattva is, as I see it, found in the Vimalakirti Sutra, where it says, "People suffer, therefore I suffer." Vimalakirti is a bodhisattva. You can see that he is enlightened or capable of enlightened as Buddha, but he lives in the society and looking at the pain of people, he jumps into it. So you can see this as a story, but to me it's very profound. If I see enlightenment is to live a life away from the society, that means you're leaving the society's pain as it is, but you go into the state of, let's call it nirvana, or blissful state of being enlightened or awakened. That's the history of the Buddhism, if you call that, after the Buddha's awakening and teaching. There's a group of people who didn't go into the path that Buddha may have taken to be awakened. Even though they feel that is feasible, they decide that it's not the way for them because they belong to the society, so to speak. As a result, or the main point of that is, they felt the pain of people suffering and has to be doing some work to alleviate the pain. The approach they take is to share the Buddhahood or the awakened life for those in the society with the pain, so that they would alleviate the pain and know or find the way. So Bodhisattva, their goal is just to do that. So if we look into the structure of who we are, let's say we have this dimension of mind that if we don't properly use it, we get into this suffering. But there's a source or grounded state we have at the core, if we can find. There, everything is as it is. The law of nature takes place, and without having the mind, you can have a peace in that state. So that's one direction that you can go into, and you can call that a path toward awakening, because you can resolve yourself being in the state as if nirvana, blissful state, but not remaining there or not staying there. We may use our brain. But when we start to use our brain, there's a limitation of what can be done, because brain has its own limitation. Things beyond the logic, brain cannot handle it. Yet what goes on deep inside of us, the root of our being, is beyond the mind reach. Why? Because we are not capable using the brain to that degree of knowing how the universe functions. We are the product of how the universe functions. So to be able to reach out to the source, we have to let go of everything, surrender to what the universe does. So it's beyond the mind capability, but we can use the mind best we can, while we may also connect to the source of our being every now and then. So it's like a pendulum. I mentioned this in other videos, that we may go back and forth. It's maybe also called that the middle way, in between what the brain does and what the source of our being or heart is doing. Not negating the mind, but using the mind or the brain. And so as soon as we use the brain, even though we may know the limitation, you get to the point of not being able to use it well or communicate with others. So that's the limitation, and you have to go back to the source to resolve yourself. And that's what this Bodhisattva, their life is. As if to go between those two dimensions, but have a place, let's call it at the center, so that you can bridge those two dimensions in some way or the other. Not an easy task. Okay, gaining awakening and enlightenment by itself, it's not easy, but it's also not easy to be in the process of going back and forth between the brain and heart, or in mind and the root of our being. But as human, we have those two constructs. We have the construct of brain and heart, so to speak, and there's a need to bridge the gap, and that's what the term Bodhisattva was born and used, such that we can find a way to live more like a Bodhisattva. Of course, depending upon the level of expertise or knowledge or understanding or skills. It may not be simple, but we may appreciate the work of those and connect with those bodhisattvas and be encouraged to live a life as they did.